Frank Lamb, Frank Lamb.
And your title?
Sergeant, California Highway Patrol.
Okay. Sergeant, can you kind of tell us what happened here today?
Basically, CHP dispatch received a call of a head-on collision on northbound 67. We responded to the scene approximately 3:15. There was a Ford F-150 based on witness statements that traveled the wrong way, traveling southbound onto the Winter Gardens Boulevard off-ramp from northbound 67. The Ford F-150 was driven by an adult female. She crossed over the Gore Point and the number 2 lane directly into the number 1 lane, traveling head-on into a Chevrolet utility truck, electrical truck, also pulling a heavy-duty generator. That Chevrolet heavy-duty utility truck was driven by an adult male. Both the drivers of the Chevrolet and the Ford F-150 received critical injuries. The driver of the Chevrolet utility truck was transported by air ambulance to Mercy Hospital, and the driver of the Ford F-150 was transported by ground ambulance to Sharp.
Your drivers who were driving by said this was one of the worst that they had seen.
It's definitely a very violent crash, a head-on crash, especially with a vehicle that's traveling in the number 1 lane at the speed limit of approximately 65 miles an hour, with no indication based on the distance and the time that we're looking at the scene based on the off-ramp. So it was a very violent crash. As you can see, the scene did cause us to close down, obviously, northbound 67. We're conducting the investigation to determine the factors involved related to this collision. What
were witnesses saying? Do we have any idea why this driver was heading the wrong way?
Well, at approximately that time, there is a significant amount of traffic on northbound 67 queuing up on the Winter Gardens Boulevard off-ramp. Witnesses did indicate that the Ford F-150 traveled around their vehicles onto the State Route 67 wrong way, crossing over the number 2 lane into the number 1 lane. We don't know why at this time. Our investigation's continuing and will to try to determine those factors.
Okay, because I think on the CAD it said maybe they thought the truck was doing it on purpose, going the wrong way.
Yeah, I can't comment on that right now. Our investigation's ongoing. We'll try to determine those factors as we investigate.
You described this as a very violent crash. I mean, amazingly, I don't like to say the word amazingly, but there's no one that's died.
At this time, both the parties were transported from the scene. They were extricated from the vehicles. I wasn't on scene at that time, but I do know that they were transported to the trauma units of both the hospitals.
And there was no other vehicles involved?
That's correct, no other vehicles, just the Chevrolet and the Ford F-150.
Fortunately, I mean, this is already a bad crash, but it could have been even worse.
Absolutely. Thankfully so, there weren't other vehicles that were traveling on 67 involved in this collision.